This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mommyingwhilemuslim podcast. This is Uzma Jaffrey with a hairball. Sorry.
I know. I was like, your voice sounds sexy. What's going on, girl?
No colds. I haven't been like on snotty tissues. Do you want to tell the new audience coming who you are?
Zeba Hassan, on vacation, so I'm not wearing my usual black and red. I am nice and colorful, which is always so exciting.
I love it. I love your beach hair,
This is
like the beach wave.
You
It's
like my beach
beautiful,
hair? You
mashallah.
do you like
Totally.
the set? You probably can't even see the sand in it. Like I haven't washed it or brushed it, so this is eau de natural. So it is
That's what
even my kids
vacations
are
are
like,
about,
your
man.
hair looks crazy, and I'm like, yeah, well, honey, mommy doesn't brush or wash her hair on vacation. That is part of the fun.
Yeah. Yes, because all the grooming is hard. So how was this week leading up to the vacation? Or this is only the second day, right?
Yes, we got here last night. Honestly, we were just getting ready for school. And I know that you're going to be
Mm,
talking about school, nationwide school, in your segment. But right now, we're just had to get our school supplies, get organized, get our. We were. I spoke with Samia from Think and Teach on Thursday. She gave us some really good tips on how to kind of organize our class, quote unquote, virtual classrooms. The kids kind of helped with that because we come back literally less than 48 hours before school starts. So I just wanted to not have to worry about that when we came back home. This was a last minute trip that Zephyr was so nice in booking for us, knowing that my mental health, as we all know, and have been on this journey with me for the last couple of months, have been a little bit crazy. And being in front of the water, as much as I hate the sand, is where I'm
yeah.
supposed to be. So literally just sitting outside, reading and writing and journaling, and that's pretty much about it. What about you guys?
Nothing. We're never going on vacation again, it feels like. But, I feel like this last week I have come to terms more and more with an adjustment disorder that I have, probably
Hmm.
depression, because literally for the last week I stopped cooking. I was like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay.
Because every day it was something like somebody doesn't like what I'm eating or what I've
Yes.
cooked, or,
Cooked.
well, did you have this? Or why isn't that there? And I was like, you know what? And then I'm the one that
Screw
has
it.
to clean up the 5 different meals at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
night. So I was like, "You know
Yes.
what? I'm sort of done. So I'm checking out. Y'all wanna make a sandwich? Make a sandwich. Y'all wanna eat out? Eat out. I don't care. I'm gonna go watch Great British Baking Show in my room." And that's what I've
Okay.
literally done for 6 days. I finally made dinner last night,
Good.
and it was funny, and
But
I
you
and I
needed
talked to my
that.
husband about it. Yeah, that was my
Well,
vacation, I
you
guess. Yeah,
absolutely
that
needed
was my
that.
vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
we're
And
all
I just
having to do what we need to do. That's the truth of it right now.
Mhm.
And we're in
Yeah.
survival mode. We can pretend and call it whatever, but the reality is we're all in survival mode. And if that means watching the British baking show in your bedroom while everybody fends for themselves, then I am applaud you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we all have to just kind of acknowledge that at some point our denial is going to catch up with us. And I think that's what happened to me.
Hmm.
So
Well, I'm glad. I
that's how
hope
it
you're going to
is
be
these days.
recharged and hopefully, as people are coming in, you need to stay out, honey. Okay, because they don't they're like, "What are you doing? Why are you talking to yourself in the corner?"
It's
But what is our
vacation, but
soap
they're just
It's a
working.
vacation, and I love it, and this is a special episode. So, why don't you tell us what our soapbox is for today?
Yeah. So back to school, back to work, that's like a big thing in our country right now. So many people have already been struggling with these questions as far back as March and April. So a recent VOX article was put out on childcare. They ask for mommy first. So 41 million workers have kids under the age of 18. 41 million working Americans have kids who are minors. 34 million of those working parents have kids under the age of 14. And then I said 41 the first time, right? Yeah. 43 million
Mhm.
people are working with reduced pay or are now unemployed because of COVID-19. This is a lot of numbers, guys. 18 million children belong to a single parent household. That's a huge percentage, y'all. 11% of our single moms are unemployed right now. 40%, almost half of our after school childcare or, daytime childcare programs are closed because they can't afford to stay open given the COVID regulations. Who's going to tell a 3-year-old like not to sneeze and put the ball in his mouth? Pre-COVID, 83% of working parents couldn't afford reliable health care or childcare. So what happens now after COVID? The administration is telling schools to take care of this problem, which is why they're pushing so hard for in-person schools. Certain political parties are, but government bailouts are not. They're going to like big businesses. They're not going to these child care facilities, these places that are necessary for parents to continue working, so that you don't need to have a stimulus check, but you need to have a stimulus check right now if you're underemployed or unemployed. So we've already lost so many tens of thousands of lives to COVID-19. If an American worker is not able to go in and work, because now more likely it's going to be she is more likely to have to stay home and need the stimulus checks for the long haul. We already knew that this was a catastrophic economic event, this pandemic, but it's particularly hitting single mothers. It's particularly hitting our underemployed, unemployed single mothers who, not everybody, a very small percentage of those were professional, like, management level women who maybe had a package they could fall back on. We're talking about hourly wage people that probably didn't even have insurance to begin with. So now they're getting on state care as well. So this is like multifold. Millions of dollars were lost, millions of dollars lost from the hands of single mothers in this country. Another big hit we give to single mothers in this country, unfortunately. So, um, thousands of hours, working hours lost from the American parents. So, radio silence in the White House about this because schools have to fix it. That's your job. That's why they created you. So, just everybody remember in November. That's our soapbox for today.
Remember in November, I think that needs to be a slogan, and it probably is a slogan
I think it
somewhere, but
is.
I love
I didn't
that.
make
Is
that
it
up.
okay? I was like, "Ooh,
I'm
Uzma,
not
like,
smart
I am
enough.
so proud of your branding brain, like, you should kiss that brain, I'm so excited about it." But no, you're 100% right, 'cause, we've had multiple preschools in our area closed down because of those types of circumstances, and we're in a pretty affluent zip code. So I'm only thinking,
Mhm.
like, if that's happening in our zip
To
code, I
you.
can't even imagine what's happening to other people right now. So thank you so much for pointing that out, because it's definitely something that we do need to remember in November. But we are going to be continuing our family evolution series, how the American Muslim family has changed as we're speaking, and with for a variety of reasons, right? Like whether it's through necessary circumstances or unnecessary circumstances or happenstance. And we're gonna, I think you remember we had an episode with Layla, not Layla, sorry, Layla's her sister, Lena Alarian, about what happens to Muslim men that the government unjustly targets. But we weren't able to get anyone to speak on that because it's a very, let's just say, political topic, to be honest with you. And we had one particular person that I desperately wanted on the show, and was begging Uzma to please get this woman on the show. And she happens to be Uzma's sister. Umayma Jaffrey joins us today, and she is also a mother of four, also one of my childhood friends. And I am so thankful that we wrangled you to come on because I know this was not what you wanted to do, but so, so thankful that we're doing this because your particular story deserves to be heard. And I know I've been keeping up with it from the background through Uzma, and, I just want you to just come on right now and introduce yourself and tell us exactly what's going on.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Alaikum salam. Welcome. At long last.
Right? Yeah, Uzma's literally been hounding me for like months and months and months.
Yes.
And I'm so, so
So,
thankful.
uh, no, thanks for having me. I'm here on a Sunday just for you guys.
Yes.
Yay!
She like woke up early for us. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Mama, we usually
uh,
start by asking people to tell us their mom story. So if you're comfortable talking about your kids, because for some reason, everybody who comes on or gets affiliated with the show has 4 kids. You and I happen to have 4 kids too. Zeba happens to have 4. It's just, I don't know, Allah,
Yeah.
it's a sign. We think it's a sign from Allah. So if you're comfortable talking about your kids, do that. Tell everybody a little bit about our family background. A lot of our regular audience already knows through me, but any specific points that you may want to highlight that are politically correct and don't make me look like an awful monster growing up, that would be great. But yeah,
The
family
sister
background and
secrets
your
are going to
mom's
come
story.
out.
How long
I
is
know,
the
right? All the
show?
skeletons.
There's a lot to say.
We record for like an hour, but we pare it down to like 40 minutes for the audio.
So I know, like, we all have 4 kids. I say that the 4 is the new 2. Like, growing up, I felt like we were the oddball family of 3 kids, and everybody else had like 2 kids. So I think 4 is the new 2. So if you don't have 4 yet, get to work.
Get cracking.
So yeah, Uzma and I come from a family of 3. She's the oldest and I'm the youngest, and we got a brother in the middle. She's I won't say how many years older than me, but
You
people say
can.
we look
I'm
alike,
6
so we'll
years
just
older.
pretend. She's 6 years older. I had somebody call me the other day and they're like, "Oh, Uzma, give me your number. Who's older?" And I was like, "Man, you should know that before you call me." She's the older one. So
But
yeah,
that just means that you both are aging beautifully, mashallah. So who the heck cares
mashallah.
about age at this
Yeah,
point?
we'll give props to my mom for those genes because I know she's listening and
Good
she wants some
genes,
sort
yeah.
of credit.
Our dad has good genes too, you know?
Daddy has good genes. You know what? My friends tell me, they're like, "Your dad is so handsome and he dresses so sharp," and
Yeah,
I'm like, "Yeah,
mashallah, he
mashallah,
aged
that's
well.
daddy."
Yeah.
He did age well. Um, so yeah, I have 4 kids. They are ages 7, 9, 11, and 13 almost. I have a 13. My oldest will be turning 13 in a month. So that's like a big deal. I'm about to cry. I think I'm gonna cry. I'm just
It is a
holding
big
it
We've been
in,
trying
deal.
to
but I'm
talk her
pretty
off
sure
the
I'm gonna
ledge.
cry. Yeah. So yeah, something happened last week too, where I was like, "Oh, mama, no, like this." Ugh. So yeah, I'm really on the verge of crying because they're growing up.
Don't cry.
What else do you want to know about my kids? I have 2 boys and 2 girls. It goes girl, boy, so it worked out really well like
Oh,
that,
that was
alhamdulillah.
perfect.
Uh,
That was what I was wanting, but
yeah.
it didn't quite work out for me.
Too bad you don't
Me
get like a
either.
selection. Like, oh, I want this one, this one. Oh yeah, you
Well,
both
you
have 3
can technically if you
boys.
do IVF. Yeah, we have 2 boys and a
Oh,
girl. So,
okay.
I love this
Um,
part. So, can you tell us your parenting philosophy? Because this, I think, is something that we share, and it's very novel to Zeba because this is the anti-parenting philosophy to Zeba.
Yes, I'm interested.
my parenting philosophy. Okay, I know a lot of people like make judgments and everything, but freaking lazy parenting for the win. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
I'm very I've raised like I've obviously I was hands-on when they were little. I had 4 little ones, under the age of 6, I think it was.
Oh
By the
my
time I had number 4,
gosh.
my oldest was only 5. So yeah, it was my hands were full. Um, but my whole goal in raising them was to teach them to do it on their own. Um, and I feel like that kind of came from my mom. I was left home alone starting at age like 11. I could eat whatever I want. I could watch whatever I want. But dinner time, yeah, my mom fed me. Confession. But you know, my whole thing was let's just let them kind of develop into adults, and be responsible and be considerate. Um, and so yeah, so at a young age I was like, pour your own milk and make your own sandwich and brush your own teeth. I'm not just going to be after you all the time. um so yeah, I mean, it's very hands off. I think Uzma's like there now, as well, and it's just so much easier on
It took
us,
me a while.
when they can do their own
hmm
thing. Well, you were also working, so it's like,
Yeah, I was working, but like I taught
um
my 3-year-olds how to make their own breakfast because I was like, Mom's not doing it. She's post call. She's gonna sleep. So,
yeah, see, like, if I had a baby, then the 2 older ones had to do something on their own because I needed to catch up on my
mhm.
sleep because mashallah, I had 4 babies who always stayed up at night. It was Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great. So it's like, yeah, I needed a nap during the day. Or if it was Ramadan, I needed a nap during the day. If it's Monday, I needed a nap during the day. I always need a nap during the day.
Yeah, we're nappers,
So
Zeba.
that's just me.
I know
We're
Zeba's
Yeah,
like,
I
what's a
know.
nap?
we're
Like,
huge nappers.
like I'm like texting her. She goes, "I was taking a nap." I was like, "What the heck?" But the truth of the matter is,
Yeah.
what you're failing to say, and why it's specifically very heroic of you. And I'm going to say that because I know you two are sisters, so like you're probably just you're blended into each other. But as an outsider looking in, you've been raising these kids essentially as a single mother for has it been 6 years? I feel like it's been like 6 years.
No, God, no, please don't say 6 years. It'll be
I was
5
like,
years in
I
November.
feel like it's 5 years. Okay, I feel like it's been a very, but by the way, that's still a very
Feels like a
long time. So
decade,
your
but yeah.
oldest, it does feel like a decade. And do you want to take us to the day that you did become a single parent? Because it definitely was something that was not a natural circumstance. So I'm going to
Yeah.
give you the floor because this is a very important story. And I'm hoping people are listening because, like, you guys are a normal family, like us families of six, and then one day that all came crashing down. So, Omema, can you please take us to that day and how that happened?
Well, 5 years ago in 2015, November 5th to be exact, which is almost here.
Mhm.
Just isn't that election day or something? Um,
Mhm.
my husband opened the garage door to put out the trash at 8 a.m. and instead, like 20 U.S. Marshals ran into our garage. And our garage door was at that time directly adjacent to my master bedroom. So my master bedroom door was open. So when you open the garage, you see me standing there in front of the mirror, putting on my hijab. I hadn't quite gotten my hijab on yet when, these U.S. Marshals barged into the house, and I just ran into the garage. So he was holding our almost 2-year-old son at that time, my husband. They had a warrant, and they arrested him. Um, I'll rewind a little bit. Back in 2011, we were raided by the FBI. And they interviewed my husband. His name is Ibrahim for 2 weeks, and then they disappeared. Radio silence for 4 years. We didn't hear back from the FBI ever. We had an attorney. He's like, why scratch a wound that doesn't itch? So just ignore them. So for 4 years, we kind of went on with our life. We moved from Ohio and from Michigan. We were kind of like living in both places, like in limbo. We moved to Texas, and I was so glad to go back to Texas after nearly 10 years. I'm born and raised in Texas. That's home. So we're starting this new life, and then here they are, and they arrest my husband in 2015. And that was the day, November 5th, 2015, that I became a single mom. I wasn't divorced. I wasn't widowed, thankfully. But it was a different sort of test. It was a different sort of circumstance, and it's not that common, but it's also not that uncommon these days, unfortunately, for women to be left alone raising their kids while their Muslim husband is behind bars. That's the gist.
And it kind of goes back to our Muslim entrapment, the whole counter-violence and extremism movement that started after 9/11 and
Hmm.
specifically
Hmm.
racially profiled Muslim-looking men. And then things like the Patriot Act. Omema, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So, the Patriot Act was passed after 9/11 under the Bush administration, where it basically allows the government to surveillance Muslims, whether it's in their mosque, whether it's in their businesses, whether it's in their homes. The funny thing is, when we were raided in 2011, shortly after that, we decided to move. We just wanted to get out of that house. We were violated. We just had a sour taste in our mouth. We just didn't want to stay in a place where the FBI had just completely crawled through all their stuff, every corner, every inch of our house. So when we moved to another house, um, our previous landlord had called, and he's like, the FBI came, they went inside the home, they took something, and they left. That's when we realized that there was probably surveillance in the house. When we were raided, they must have planted something or another in our house. So that just goes to show that, they don't need your permission. You don't know what's happening, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on the internet. Um, you're being surveilled like all the time, 24/7. And why is it Muslims? Why isn't it like right-wing white nationalists who are being surveilled? Are they or are they not? We know that leaders in the Black Lives Matter movement are also being surveilled. Um, it's just part of this whole um, this system that the government has created to basically subdue and suppress, the voices um, that could possibly rise up against them. But why are Muslims in that mix? It's just post 9/11. It's the Red Scare, right? You need an enemy. You need an enemy to show your people this is why we need to fund our militia. You need an enemy to show that this is why we can't afford to give the public money for other reasons, because we have to fight the bad guy.
And in this
No,
circumstance,
that's
the bad
absolutely
guy
true.
was Ibrahim, it sounds like.
In their eyes, yeah. He was a
Yeah.
bad guy who looked like every other bad guy. He was a Muslim guy. He had a beard. His last name is Muhammad. What else do you need? That he fit the criteria.
So
Yeah.
where are you guys right now? Like I mean, not physical location, but where are
Yeah.
you in part of the process?
So he was arrested in 2015. We had to wait 3 years for a trial date to finally be set. I mean, that's not true. We had multiple trial dates and they just kept getting pushed back for 3 years. So finally, we have a trial date 2 years before trial in early spring of 2018. The government finally approached us with a plea deal. And a plea deal, a lot of people always are like, why do you take a plea deal if you're not guilty? But statistically, 97 cases, 97% of cases that enter our justice system plea out. The prosecution, the government doesn't want to try these cases. They don't want to actually spend millions of dollars trying a case. So what they do is they just give you a plea deal. They're saying, okay, you're either looking at, life in prison or 25 years in prison or however many years it is. Just take this plea deal, you get a lesser sentence, job done. Nobody actually has to work for it. So we take the plea deal. Ibrahim was offered 5 years and then deportation because he was only a green card holder at the time. It still is. Well, not anymore actually.
Not anymore.
So not anymore. I still have it though. So at that time, he had already served most of his sentence. He had served 2.5 years, so he only had 2.5 years remaining. And in the federal system, you get a credit for good behavior. The one thing, I actually won't even say the one thing Trump did right, but he passed what's called the First Step Act, which credited inmates more good time than was previously allowed. Had like I think it was 47 days per year of good time. He increased it to 54 days. So Ibrahim actually got out early. He got out in February of this year in 2020. He was moved directly to ICE detention because they were supposed to deport him. And we were hoping, he would be deported in, let's say, March within a month of being released in February. But drum roll, please, what happened? COVID. Uh, so COVID came and put us all, turned us up on our heads. And yeah, um, he ended up being in ICE for about 2.5 months then. And we petitioned, we made phone calls, we wrote letters. I mean, we did all sorts of stuff. And so finally, he was released in May and he was shipped off to India. And that's where he is right now. He's in India with his mom, while we, his wife and children, are still in Ohio waiting for this COVID thing to just kind of please go away so that we could finally be reunited somewhere in the world.
Yeah. So I've watched you, live this limbo life for 5 years. Do you want to talk about what that's like and what support systems you have or haven't had?
What is that like? Single momming's hard. Anybody who's done it can, attest to that. Like I said, I'm not divorced and I'm not widowed. I guess in those cases, I can't speak for people in those cases, of course, but I assume it's although being widowed and being divorced is hard, it's difficult in and of itself. I guess you have some sort of closure that, okay, this is it. I got to do it by myself. To live in limbo, like for 3 years of not having a trial, first of all, and then waiting for another 2 years post plea deal. You're just kind of you're on the edge of your seat for 5 years, basically. That's what I felt like. I'm neither here, I'm neither there. The kids ask you questions like, when are we going to see Baba? When is Baba going to come back home? Or when are we going to move? You said we're going to move. You said Baba will be home. All sorts of things. So it gets really overwhelming very fast. Um, but alhamdulillah, I came back to Ohio where Ibrahim and I lived since we got married. Um, we have a great support system here. Like everybody just kind of showed up because they knew Ibrahim. They knew him from the masjid. They knew him from the community. He's always helped people who needed it, but he always helped people before they asked. So his reputation was basically, I guess, our saving grace, where people just, they have this unwavering support. Alhamdulillah. They smile in my children's faces. They always ask me if I'm okay. So alhamdulillah, I've been blessed with amazing people here. And of course, there's my family who showed up. Like I remember my dad was there within a few hours of Ibrahim's arrest. He was there that same day. And so without that, I think I would have fallen backwards. So having your family there, having your friends there has really, really made this so much easier. I know I couldn't do it alone. So alhamdulillah for that.
Yeah,
So this is
absolutely.
the obvious question, that I am just going to ask and be blunt about it. Like the fact that was there ever a moment in time where your loyalty to him, to your husband, wavered, where you were just, like you're young, obviously you're a lot of years younger than we are. At any point, like
Not that much.
you could have moved on. So what was it, your love? Was it your loyalty? What made you decide I'm going to hold on to this during all of this? Like in truly the vows of in sickness and health and good times and in bad, like you've been there. So what was it that made you stay loyal?
Um, D, all of the above. Um, I mean, there are women out there who stand by their men when they're on their deathbed, right? I mean, why do they do it? Why not just walk away and not have to see your loved one die? Um, the same holds true over here. Like, why would you walk away? Of course, it's loyalty. Of course, it's love. I remember when we were raided in 2011, we actually had just had a fight. So when the FBI shows up, I'm like, well, I was mad at you like 12 hours ago, but now we got like our house crawling with FBI. What are we going to do? So naturally, yeah, I step up because it's not a question. It's not a question you ask yourself. You don't even give it a second thought. Um, so yeah, and at that point, Ibrahim's like, I have by far the most loyal wife, and he said it throughout, in his time in prison, any phone calls we've had, letters he's written. He's like, I wouldn't have been able to do this without a woman like you standing by me, and that I owe to Allah, and then B, my parents. My dad has taught us to be confident and to be strong women. Like my sister can attest to that too. Like we're pretty badass. You want us on your side. So yeah, he was. I mean, alhamdulillah. I mean, I don't know what to say. There's not a question. No, I didn't question myself. Should I be with this man or should I not be with this man? I know I've had people who say, oh, you know what? Your husband's gone. He's a Muslim man. He'll be locked up for life. You might as well move on with your life. I don't even know what to say to that. I don't know what that means. How do you move on with your life? You don't just cut the ties like that. I also have 4 kids with this man. It's not as easy as, okay, bye. I have read about cases where men have been Muslim political prisoners who have gone to prison and their wives have left them. I don't know their circumstances. I don't want to know. All I know is that, they've been through some immense hardship, and it's hardship upon hardship. And for me, it wasn't even a question. It really wasn't.
No, I love
Well,
that.
after
And
five
I'm
years, I
actually
finally
going to
heard it. Thank you for asking, Zeba.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, how does that and honestly to go because you were, a background player, and I'm gonna say background player because I don't know, how, invested you were in this particular process, but I know you and I know you probably were. But Uzma, did you ever feel that your specific family, as an extension of Umaima's, was also under surveillance at all? Or maybe still under surveillance on some level?
I feel like because we were heavily involved in the Muslim Students Association, I know there was definitely a period when we were, because you can hear the clicks on the phone and the unidentified van down the street, that doesn't belong to any of the neighbors. This was 9/11. We were in college at the time. So I know that Muslims in America, we always, I mean, Sherlock's from the CIA, you're surveilled. So, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, if you're
Yeah.
living within you can imagine your information is out there. But I feel like I live in, nobody ever contacted me. Never. No CIA ask about Omema and Ibrahim. I think in a specific bubble, like I have privilege. I have my husband and I who, the most exciting thing that he did was go to Israel on a mission trip when he was in dental school, where he was treating Palestinian children. So, we've had to get rid of a passport because of that, because Saudi Arabia wouldn't let him in with an Israeli know, way. Like we never, us do something so hard and then there was something on Facebook that day and you made me pull it off. I think there's a
So
little bit of an
someone's
audio
internet is
lag, but we'll
pretty.
catch up shortly.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch anything you said.
Oh, none of that came through?
Mm-mm.
Like, not a
Oh,
word.
sorry. Okay, I can just repeat myself. Tell me if you can hear me now. Testing, testing.
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is that I've always been in this privileged space where nobody ever came to ask me questions, like they did to Omema and Ibrahim. I think honestly they didn't come after anybody in our family. And I don't know why that is. I just always imagined for me it was because I was geographically separated when we were married. Even before we were married, we were pretty much always geographically separated. And then, I have a job and a tax bracket that they're not interested in, or maybe they have a vested interest and that's why they're going to leave me alone so that I can keep paying the system that imprisoned my brother-in-law and continues to imprison, wrongfully accused Muslims, entrap Muslims. We see what they're doing with our tax dollars to Black bodies all over this country. So, in a way they need us, but they don't need us like they needed Umayma and Ibrahim, because I truly feel that her particular case, or Ibrahim's particular case, was a political move in 2016 by the governor. Is he still your
Mhm.
governor, Kasich?
No,
Umayma?
no, no, no.
To our domestic soil than, foreign nationals. I think Umayma might be frozen. Oh yeah, I think she is. So, Zeba, what
So
other
we'll keep
questions do you
talking.
have? Yeah.
Well, I have a yeah, there
Oh,
she
there
is.
she
She's
is.
back right now. But
Sorry.
for me, like no, the family dynamic is very interesting.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum. Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. Sorry about that.
Apparently, my connection is not so great, um, but Joe's working on it right now. In the meantime, you mentioned the kids. Do you want to talk about how this has been for the children? Because, I mean, your oldest was just turned 8 when this happened, right?
Yeah, she just turned 8, right? Um, so yeah, it's pretty hard. I will say now, let me start with the conclusion first, is that alhamdulillah, children are very resilient. Like I think God just makes them that way. It's in their it's in their instinct, it's in their fitra to just be that resilient. And we see it across the board. In all parts of the world, you see kids laughing and playing in refugee camps. I'm not comparing myself to that, but kids are just made amazingly resilient. And I actually am really proud of my kids for that. They went through a hard time. Hafsa was my oldest, she was just confused, and she was the oldest. She had looked out the window and seen her dad put in cuffs and taken away. Um, so that weighed heavily on her. My oldest son, Saleh, like he immediately flipped and started throwing like these crazy tantrums. Um, but it took several months. It took a couple of years actually for them to kind of settle down and um, visiting Baba weekly, because that's all we got. We got 30 minutes a week to see him in the county jail. To finally be able to, not even understand, but just kind of um,
Come to terms with.
not even come to terms with, just kind of, kids just fall into routine. They just go with the flow. They don't know what's going on. And for many years, they didn't know what was going on because they were still young and I didn't tell them anything. There was one point where my oldest she would cry, like she would just randomly cry. She would just be standing there, she'd break down crying. And I'd be like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, do you just miss Baba? And she'd be like, yes. And she would cry from like the depths of her soul. Like it would come out really deep and painful. So it wasn't until like one day just randomly, she's like, I just want to die. And I was like, whoa, like I think she was only 9 or 10 at the time. And alhamdulillah, I was blessed with running into a friend at a conference, and we went to college together, and she held my hand and she was like, tell me what I can do for you. And I was like, no, we're good. And she's like, no, tell me what I can do for you. And this friend happened to be a therapist. And so I started therapy for Hafsa and myself. And so that really kind of it was a huge flip in everybody's perspective in the way we just did things in our house. So alhamdulillah, if my mom's listening, she'll tell you that, Hafsa used to always be very sad and very depressed, and you could see it visibly on her face. And she completely flipped, and she was herself again. You could see the brightness in her eyes. You could see her smiling again finally. They had a great school. They really loved their teachers. They really loved their friends. So alhamdulillah, that really, really helped us. Just being around great family and friends, their cousins, their aunts and uncles, their grandparents. They're crazy about their grandparents. That all played a part in helping them cope with this. My youngest is almost 7, and Ibrahim was arrested before this kid even turned 2. So he's basically grown up his entire life without a dad, and he's had problems. Like I have behavioral issues, and he has social issues, whatever it is. I I just assume that's because he grew up in a household without a dad. Um, and so it's pretty hard. Now Ibrahim, he's free. We get to video chat, all day, every day. So he tries to connect with all the kids again, and especially this little one, because they basically don't know each other at all. They haven't been around each other. And now, I mean, just last night, Ibrahim was telling me that he's finally had this connection with our youngest one, the youngest one just wakes up. They all race early in the morning to wake up and call Baba. Who can be first to call Baba? So the little one always usually wins. And he calls Baba and he's like, oh, I did this and I did that, and this kid's annoying, and I like cars, or whatever it is, man. This kid just talks on and on and on, and Ibrahim he absorbs it all. He just takes it all in. He loves every moment of it. And yeah, if I could ship just that one kid off to his dad, I would.
Stop.
So it's alhamdulillah, these kids are amazing. Really, I look up to them because they like Allah has really, really blessed them in that sense. They're good Muslim kids. They're just good, kind kids. They're annoying a lot of times, but I
To
blame that on
you.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yes, to me, but I blame that on COVID. Like 5 people stuck in a house for how many months has it been? I lost count. 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all need 5 separate vacations, but nonetheless, these kids are good. I'll
Yeah.
never deny that. Like,
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah, they're good kids.
Now this is my question. Uzma, like that, listening to her account of her daughter and your niece, like I love my nieces and nephews, like literally like they're just extensions of my own children. Like I like love to eat them up, and I just love everything about them. So if I heard a story like this, I mean, I'm about to cry now. How does it make you feel to hear that?
I
I
mean,
don't
it
know. Like
devastates you,
it's
you
very
know?
sad.
Yeah. No, it is because, we know that in our family we have a history of depression. So to have this like huge
Mhm.
outside stressor, make that genetic possibility even more of a reality is so scary. So as a mom, you just always wonder, like, was there something I could have done? And luckily, alhamdulillah, Umama had the resources show up. But I remember I flew down there to Dallas, and I don't know if I even shared this picture with Umama, but she was moving for like what felt like the seventh time since she got married, like on the heels of his 2015 arrest. And, the kids were like, Halami, don't break the boxes because we need all the boxes to move. Because I was like, hey, let's make a fort out of the boxes. I was trying to divert their attention a little bit. No, we're not allowed to do that because we need the boxes. And it's something as simple as that, like, I yelled at my sister. I was like, let the kids play with the goddamn boxes. We'll buy some boxes if you need to move again. But something that simple, the kids, um, that broke my heart. And then on that same trip, I think we got tired of packing all day. And then Omema just passed out, obviously, because she was physically and emotionally exhausted. And, this daughter of hers also curled up next to her. And they're both kind of in these fetal positions, making like a mother daughter yin yang. And I thought, this is going to be it for who knows how long. So watching that has been really hard, and knowing that, you know, this was not something that I could have done because honestly, we were both raised in the same household, but I would not have chosen to handle it the way Omema did. Because I don't think I had the mental fortitude and the emotional fortitude or the patience to do it. So subhanallah, she's really strong and she's been able to do a lot with and for her kids in ways that a lot of other moms have had to make hard choices, and it's the reason why we title this Under Duress is, I mean, obviously nobody willingly becomes a single mom. Divorce sucks, widowhood sucks, it's all under duress. But in this particular case, I feel like the outside factor is our government making bad choices, and we see that all over the news every day playing out. They're making stupid decisions, and not just this administration, because naturally, Patriot Act preceded us, preceded the current one.
Mhm.
Counter-violence and extremism, that kind of surveillance, that preceded the last two administrations. So we really have a lot of work to do so that we're not creating more single moms. There's a way to stop this from happening. If we could just call the terrorist a terrorist without, offering plea bargains to a family man who was putting out the garbage one day. It's ridiculous to me. So, yeah, watching as an outside sort of peripheral figure, that's just kind of my take on the whole situation.
You guys cry a lot on the show.
We cry a lot. It's Zeba's
We
fault. I
do.
didn't cry this much. She made me
I
cry.
know I
Yeah.
I
made her
lost my crying.
emotional, but she I I cry when it's partly cloudy outside, but the truth of the matter is it sucks. Like, I mean, it's true. I
Yeah.
mean, my kids will tell me, they're like, "Mom's crying again," but honestly, I feel like if you don't cry, like that's why I don't have those massive blow ups, right? Because I can kind of diffuse and it's like little steam things that come out. I'm like a tea kettle, and then it goes out, and then I'm fine. And it can be, that's just my coping mechanism. That's how I explain it. But the truth of the matter is, what your situation is sucks. It doesn't matter. Like it, and there's no getting around it. And when you, especially when in this particular circumstance, it's closer to home, obviously, for Uzma as my
Yeah.
co-host. And I learned about it through the periphery, in the sense, being family friends and being like, well, what the heck is going on? And obviously having our own personal circumstances. Obviously my brother, one time, I still remember this, I was on a couch, and he was flying back from New York, and then he called me, and he's like, they're pulling us off the plane. This kid was 18 years old at the time, and he goes, they're taking us somewhere. And I'm, again, like his older sister, being like, don't go anywhere with them. Like, don't just willingly go. Like, and I'm like sitting up, and I'm like calling my husband to come over, because you do feel very much out of control, because you don't know what's
Mhm.
going to happen. And that is ultimately the issue that does, unfortunately, carry on to the next generation on some level. And that was one of the main motivations for me, specifically, to start this platform, because a lot of people don't know, like, you are a born and raised American citizen, and this is happening to your family right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And your
Yep.
children are American citizens, and their dad does not live at the house, because he was literally raided by the FBI and pulled. Your youngest was with him at the time and pulled
Mhm.
from his arm. So we're American citizens, and these things happen to us. And I just wanted that to be exposed on some level, and in creating this concept of humanity. We're just like everybody else. And that's ultimately the problem for me.
Yeah. So, Mama, last question. Oh, did you have a comment? Go ahead.
Mm,
Did you hear
like,
Mike
I'm not
talking
a
about
public.
having to go poop? Sorry, he's always a pooper. Because is that what you heard? Him screaming that,
No,
"Oh,
No,
I
we
have to
no,
didn't
be
no,
hear,
pooping
but
right
not
thanks
now."
at
for
all. We
outing
didn't hear
him.
Oh,
anything.
I was like, "Darn it. Everyone heard, and that's why they're quiet."
No, we would have laughed. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Um, no, I was just gonna say, I'm not a public crier. So I think, especially like from my mom, cries at the drop of a hat. Uzma gets that from her. Um, I think people see me on the outside and they're like, "Oh, you're so strong," or "You're so this." Um, I don't know. Like, I don't particularly like hearing that, because we see so many people with their struggles. We see so many people on the outside, just life moving around, doing their thing, but we don't know what's happening in their private life to know what their test is, and that's just a reminder for us, just to be kind to anybody,
Don't
to everybody, because
presume.
we don't know
Yes.
what goes on behind closed doors. Like when my story went public, I had a lot of new friends, who moved into town in Ohio and they had no idea. I was just another one of their friends. And so when my story went public in 2017, they were just completely, they were blown away. They're like, "We had no idea. You always have a smile on your face." And I was like, that's a lot of people with,
Mhm.
any sort of test, whether it's depression or single momhood or whatever it is, financial difficulty, health problems. We just don't know. People just have a smile on their face and they keep going. So that's just a reminder to just check in on people, who have smiles on their face, and just make sure that behind the scenes they're also okay.
Yeah. We had good public
Yeah,
examples of that this week too.
sometimes the people that smile the most are hurting the most on the inside. I've definitely seen a big correlation in that. And so reaching out to just because it seems like your act is together doesn't mean that it is. So that's a good reminder to people to, one, never know what somebody's cross to bear, for lack of a better phrase, and always be mindful of, other people's, like, if they're lashing
Mhm,
out to you, there's usually a reason for it. Give them the benefit of the doubt and let God judge. That's ultimately a good life lesson from this.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we have two more questions, one from the audience and one that we have. So the audience, from the audience is, how did you manage the financial burden of this impossible situation?
Um, Man, alhamdulillah, people stepped up. That's all I gotta say. Family stepped up. Friends who are like family stepped up. Um, Wallahi, I have never had to worry about money. And I think that has been the hugest blessing, the biggest blessing in this entire test. Because immediately I was like, do I sell my gold? Do I sell a car? Do I sell a kidney? Like, how do I do this? And I remember my first grocery trip, I had to tell the kids, no, we can't have cookies. Those are $4 cookies. No, I can't get the $4 cookies. And in that aisle, in the cookie aisle in the grocery store, that's when, like, I'm not a public crier, but inside I was like, this is it. Like, I can't do this. I can't say no to cookies. This is ridiculous. And that was, I think, at that moment, the hardest thing I had to do was to say no to cookies. And then, I always prayed to Allah to send his awliya, to send his to helpers, send his helpers on our path. And our path has, wallahi, been completely covered with helpers on our right side, on our left side, behind us, in front of us, where I don't have to worry about things. I don't have to worry about rent. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about money. And that's a blessing that I don't know if any other family like mine has. And that's the hard part. Alhamdulillah, I have the family and friends to help me, but there's so many families out there who don't have that. Their husbands or their sons, who are their breadwinners, have been arrested. They have nothing, or their sons have been arrested, and they have to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars in legal fees. And I'm not even
Mm-hmm.
exaggerating. Completely tears their life apart, emotionally, mentally, and financially. So we need to step up, and we need to ask these families, like, what can we do for them? This is where CCF comes in, Coalition for Civil Freedoms. This
Mm-hmm.
organization has been massive in helping families like mine, helping families whose loved ones are political prisoners, and giving them the support they need, legal support, sending Ramadan gifts to inmates. They send $100 to every single inmate. You'll be surprised at how many inmates that is and how much money that is per year. It's a number that's way too high, and it shouldn't be. But this organization checks up on families. Are you okay? What can we do for you? How can we help your story? How can we publicize your story? What resources can we get you? We need a lot of these things. But back to your question, alhamdulillah, I'm very well taken care of.
Yeah, that's good.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. That's a huge, huge blessing. Again, like you said, not everybody has those advantages. So we need to start looking for those who need them. Or if you need them, you can
Yeah.
always contact us and then we can direct you to the correct resources. We'll obviously have the
Mhm.
link to Coalition for Civil Freedoms in our show notes. But last question, unless Zeba has another one, is what do you need right now?
What do I need right now? Um, I need a reunion. I need this COVID gone. If you can come up with a vaccine, that'd be great. Um, something
From
needs to
your mouth to
freaking
God's ears.
happen.
Oh my God.
I mean, yeah.
Right, God. Um, so yeah, he's in India and we're over here, and I'm ready to freaking like swim across the ocean at this point. Um, so it really sucks. He's more, obviously it's harder for him because he video chats and he sees these kids jumping up and down and laughing, and he wants that in person. He wants his kids. Um, he's just a family guy, so it's really hard being apart. We're trying to get his paperwork done in India. We're hoping the Indian embassy opens up so we can apply for visas and fly over somehow, some way, whenever India opens up its borders. um, but yeah, what we need awareness. There are a lot of cases like this. There are a lot of brothers and sisters in prison, um, as because of their faith. That's as simple as it is. It's just because they're Muslim. There is no act of terrorism. There is no idea of terrorism. No terrorism ever has existed because of these arrests or anything, or because of prior to that. Um, so for these families to be suffering in silence all around this country, um, like, we haven't done our part in helping them, in helping bringing change, through laws and in our government. Like, we need higher ups. We need people. We need connections, man. We need connections in the government. We need a better. We need a better cabinet. We need a better everything in the White House, and in
Mhm.
Congress. Like, it just sucks right now. Um, this change is not going to happen overnight. It probably won't even happen in the next decade. But it's a lot for us. There's just a lot for us to do, and for us to raise our kids to also be aware of these types of things, whether they're political prisoners, whether it's minorities, people of color who are being targeted for who they are. You know, it's just not fair. This is not what America is, and we need to change that.
No, I love that. I love that.
Another remember
And
in November.
my hopes, yeah, remember in November. And I'm really, really hopeful that this next generation, I don't think it's going to happen in ours. I'm just going to be honest about that. But I'm very, very hopeful that the next generation will get this done. And I know it's been a long time coming. And I have to tell you, I really appreciate you coming on and telling us your story. I don't know what Uzma had to do to get you on, but I've always been grateful because because I was just like, we have to talk about this. This is something, it makes it personal. Like, and when something becomes personal, perhaps there's this intrinsic call for action that can come up
Mhm.
from it. I mean, if this can happen to somebody that is so close to home, it can happen anywhere. And like I said, we're going to have, as I mentioned, we're going to have the links in our show notes. And again, thank you so much, Umayma, for coming on. Give the kiddos a big kiss from me to them, and inshallah, we're praying for a reunion sooner rather than later for you guys.
Inshallah.
Amen.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for joining us today, everybody.
Thanks,
Assalamu alaikum.
guys. Wa alaikum salam.
So I'm like,